Alright, I have this weird theory about Sonic. At first glance, it's just a story about a greasy rat trying to get his gold rings back. But, if you read between the lines, you will soon realize that Sonic the Hedgehog is one of the most beautiful and politically charged movies about immigration of this year. Okay, so the movie starts off in Sonic's homeland, where he's taken care of by an owl, who is his mother? I don't know. Sonic's home is dangerous and he has to hide his supersonic speed to be safe. One day he gets attacked by whatever these things are, and his owl mom gives him rings that transport him to other worlds, and he escapes to a place so desolate and rural that nobody would find him there, Montana. I think this exposition ties to those coming from dangerous areas with things like war or high crime activity. They flee their country to come to America, just like Sonic did. Later on, Sonic gets really angry that he's alone in life and runs around a baseball diamond, causing an EMP that wipes out the power of the entire Pacific Northwest. This alerts the attention of the United States government, and they send in a task force that's led by a white guy and whose sole mission is to by any means necessary get rid of a foreign person that fled to the United States and capture that person so they can send them back to— okay, it's literally just ICE. Dr. Robotnik is just ICE in this movie. When they were first deciding what to do about this, the Department of Defense says that sending in Dr. Robotnik to deal with this situation is their only choice. And this firm decision that they have to send in this task force takes all of 30 seconds. They immediately went to taking extreme measures to deal with what happened in Green Hills. Mr. Robotnik himself even has a bad reputation amongst the committee, and his actions are mysterious. This is very similar to the organization of ICE itself. It seems as if using this force to find and deport immigrants is the easiest solution. There isn't much thought put into whether we should actually deport these people, especially those that have lived almost their entire lives in this country. And to most people, what they actually do with these immigrants isn't really known. Just recently, special border patrol task forces have been sent to sanctuary cities to deport immigrants, which is eerily similar to Dr. Robotnik. Another thing to note about Dr. Robotnik's task force is that they have a lot of technology. He has a bunch of drones and drives around in a decked out tinted super truck. I understand that Dr. Robotnik is basically Rick from Rick and Morty in this movie, but it would at least make a little sense that he'd be getting some outside help for this technology or funding. Just like Dr. Robotnik is using a lot of technology to get rid of Sonic, ICE also has close ties to technology companies that dish out millions of dollars to help the organization. Look no further than massive companies like Microsoft, Dell, and even Amazon to an extent, hence the drones, that ICE relies on to operate. So after the explosion, Sonic goes to his favorite person in the town's house to hide. He gets caught and is then shot by a tranquilizer dart and puts Sonic in a cage, and I feel like I don't have to explain the connection on this one. Dr. Robotnik tracks Sonic to the house and forcefully enters, which is basically an ICE raid. After Sonic escapes, he leaves behind a single quill that Dr. Robotnik notices and gives to his Morty. After doing some more research, Dr. Robotnik is able to harness the Sonic energy from the quill to be able to make a super-powered jet that can go as fast as Sonic himself. Dr. Robotnik is actively trying to destroy Sonic, but he also benefits from him being there. In America, immigrants make up a solid amount of our labor force, and they do the jobs that nobody else wants to do. Even those that are undocumented will still work in the American economy and generate money. They even have to pay sales tax for the things they buy, and some unauthorized immigrants will file taxes. The United States benefits from having immigrants here, while organizations like ICE are trying to get rid of them. This contradiction is one of the more overlooked parts on immigrants that their opposition likes to gloss over. And when Sonic and his friend Tom are on their road trip towards California, they are both labeled by the news and government as domestic terrorists. There's little basis for this claim, and they are painted as terrorists to further the agenda of those that are trying to get rid of them. Immigrants coming to the United States are classified as drug dealers, rapists, and criminals, and single instances of immigrants doing something wrong are applied to the entire community. Immigrants have become vilified as terrorists to gain support against them being here. Politicians and some news organizations paint immigrants as some kind of monstrous threat to spread hate and distrust of them. This is all done to gain support for passing legislation against them. At the end of the movie, after Sonic defeats Dr. Robotnik, he decides that he still wants to stay on Earth. He can't go back to his original planet because it's still dangerous, and he doesn't want to go anywhere else because America has become his new home. Sonic has become an American at this point. He enjoys watching American films and engages in pop culture by reading comic books. He has spent most of his life in America, and he can't see himself anywhere else. Sonic is basically a dreamer, which are unauthorized immigrants that come over to the United States as minors. Even if he wasn't originally from Earth, he is still grown up there and it is home to him. Just because he spent a few years in another place doesn't mean that he's any less of an American than anybody else. A piece of paper from the government isn't the sole marker of a place being your home. Whether you come from another country or you're a blue hedgehog, living almost your entire life in one place should mean that you can stay there. Okay, so I realize that this is reading way too hard in the movie, and I'm pretty sure that the directors did not intend for this kind of message. But I think there's something of worth in analyzing the movie like this. Not that 6-year-olds should be watching movies that require intense attention, but the children's movie genre is pretty bland and meaningless. I think children's movies can be a useful tool in teaching values early on. They can give children a trial run of the difficult things in the world without making it directly about those real-world problems. Even if Sonic isn't actually about immigration in the United States, it still teaches the values of accepting people that don't come from where you live. And that's why Sonic is a 10 out of 10 movie. Let's